action against Manchester City. It doesn't really get much harder than this. They are the winners of the last 4 times in the last 5 seasons. So tonight is going to be a very, very difficult game. But we're Chelsea and we'd like to upset the odds. Welcome along to Matchday Live. It's Manchester City against Chelsea in the Carabao Cup. Kickoff is at 8 o'clock. And joining me in the studio is Zach Jalab and Dan Stewart. Zach, let's just first talk about the Carabao Cup.
Yes.
We're coming up against basically the team that have absolutely dominated this competition in recent years. But it's a much weakened Manchester City side. So do Chelsea have more of a chance tonight?
Yeah, 100%. I think Chelsea always have a chance in the Carabao Cup. You mentioned, obviously, City have done very well. But in the cup competitions over recent years, we've done pretty well. Obviously, we've been unfortunate not to win most of them. But we've got to the finals. And I think it's been a huge learning experience for these guys, for the young guys especially coming through. And it's also times when you see a few of the youngsters as well and begin to make their name. I still remember when Reece James made his debut against Grimsby Town and scored a goal.
Good knowledge, Zach. Good knowledge.
Not too bad. They do pay me for some reason.
And Dan, timing of this game is everything because coming off the back of now 2 back-to-back defeats in the Premier League, it's a game in which we almost need to win, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we at least just needed a performance. As we know, we're up against the holders. They're always in good form at the moment. They've kind of dominated this competition for a while now. So it would be a big scalp if we can get it over the line and we can beat them today. But I think it's more about us being able to see a performance. I want to see the Chelsea of old. I always feel like we're good whenever we play against City. Don't always leave with a result, but it's always a good game.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Elizabeth Helenek joins us on Matchday Live, as she always does. Elizabeth, great to have you on. We know the teams, the Manchester City team, but with Manchester City, is it fair to say that their second string is almost as good as a lot of people's first string teams? That's how good their squad is.
Their squad depth is just absolutely insane. I do think that they are playing a couple of youngsters, as are we. So I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. But I have their starting 11 up here, and they have a lot of starters: Diaz, Laporte, Rodrigo, Gundogan, Mahrez, Grealish. So they've put out a really strong side for this game. So I think it's going to be a tough game, pretty good matchup, and yeah, let's just see how it gets on.
Absolutely. Well, let's remind ourselves then of the Chelsea team because, of course, we haven't actually seen it yet. Edouard Mendy is in goal. We've got a back 3 is what we think of Koulibaly, Trevor Chalobah and Marc Cucurella. But the big news in this, Zach, when I look down that left-hand side, is Lewis Hall starting at left wing back. This is a huge moment for him, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I kind of mentioned earlier about youngsters getting their chance. And even for like Dennis Zakaria, who played in the Champions League, another start for him. You look at that bench as well, Mari Hutchinson, you'd like to hopefully see his name come on. But yeah, for Lewis Hall, second senior cap, I mean, it's really, really exciting to then go and play Man City, a team managed by Pep Guardiola. This is huge experience. He's someone that has been loved by the Chelsea fan base now since last season as well, when he got his first start. And so, yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting to see him play down that left flank. He's someone that can also play in midfield. Yeah, he's a versatile player, and hopefully he has a good game.
That's what I was going to say, is he hasn't actually been playing left back or left wing back for Chelsea this season. Yeah. So to do it now in a big game like this is that extra pressure on him, Dan?
I think so. I think it definitely is. But he has the ability to go and express himself and be pretty free, you know. This is going to be a pretty pure footballing game. It's the kind of game where I feel like, you know, the better you are, the more you can show yourself and show everybody what you're made of. I think Lewis Hall will relish the opportunity. I think that he'll really like it playing that wing back. And to be fair, at the moment we don't actually have many options. That is our wing back.
Very, very true. He also played on Monday, so that's 2
Impressive,
games in 3 days for Lewis Hall, which is, I suppose, even more pressure. Elizabeth, let's go back to the Arsenal game because we need to look back on that and sort of the form we're in coming into this game. Is it safe to say that Chelsea just didn't really get going at all against Arsenal?
It wasn't our best performance, but I'd like to put it into context as well, because this is probably the strongest Arsenal side that we've seen in quite some time. Arteta has had years to develop this side as well and work with the team. They had a preseason and they're first in the Premier League at the moment after beating us. So they really have had such a strong start to the season, just one draw, one loss all season. It was always going to be difficult. We know their record in the past couple of years at Stamford Bridge as well. But I think that it really highlights maybe some areas where Chelsea need to invest, maybe in the January transfer window. And we just need to give Graham Potter, I think, some time to have the team gel. It wasn't a full starting 11 Chelsea side. We do have a lot of injuries in that team against Arsenal. So I think, you know, the best is yet to come, and we can only move on and grow from it.
Absolutely. And Zach, I think when we were watching that Arsenal game, I think it was just fair that Chelsea couldn't really handle the Arsenal press, and we were really sloppy when we did have the ball as well.
Yeah, I think you also got to remember this is a Chelsea side that are missing a lot of key players. Number one being Reece James, who I think if he's playing adds so much, not just in defence but in attack as well.
It's crazy how much of a difference one player makes, especially in that system, in a three at the back system.
Yeah, you're relying on your wing backs, and it's the way Chelsea have played as well over the past few years, is with a three at the back, and whether it was Marcus Alonso a couple of years ago or Ben Chilwell or whatever, who's also now injured too. Like, it's you've got guys that need to be so good going forward, and that's no discredit to someone like Azpilicueta or Ruben or whoever might play out there. No discredit at all. I just think it's so hard to play or compete to the same level as Reece James does, because he's one of the best in the world at it. And so yeah, I also think we have to say as well, Arsenal were very good, and maybe slightly where kind of Chelsea look to be in a year or so.
And is that where, I mean, a lot of people share your view, Zach, on that, and they think, you know, it's going to take time, and patience is the key word here. And I think a lot of Chelsea fans do agree in that they are a believer in Potter ball and the new era.
For sure.
Chelsea will feast again, but it's going to take some time. And Dan, I think the problem is with Chelsea fans is that under Abramovich, we were so used to success almost instantly, but now we have to be patient. If you want some stability, it's not going to happen overnight, is it?
Yeah, I think recently we've got into the culture of, you know, changing things when they're not so good, and then we get instant results from it. This time round, it's going to have to be a little bit different. I think Potter needs time, and the blueprint of Arteta at Arsenal is probably the perfect one to go by. You give them time, let them build the philosophy and the team that they want, and then hopefully with that time, the performances come, the consistency comes. And just the general relationships with everybody on the pitch starts to come to fruition. So we're going to need to exercise some patience. We are Chelsea, so we get a bit greedy and we expect things now.
We are very impatient. As a fan base, I think we are very impatient, aren't we?
Yeah, but look, we've had a lot of success. And we won't just stop having success overnight, I hope. But we're going to need to go through a transitional period. It's just what happens.
Yeah, and we have seen glimpses, Zach, of the way that Potter plays and the football. We have seen little glimpses, but it's been 11 games, 11, 12 games now. You just can't expect such a... It's not just a change on the pitch, it's changes in a lot of things as well.
100%. And then you've also got to look at it as well over the past year or so. It's no coincidence that Liverpool and Chelsea, two teams that have played the most games over the past year, 60-plus games or whatever it might have been, got to the finals of so many different competitions, gone really far in those competitions. And also not just they're trying to battle as well in the Premier League, having to put strong teams out week in, week out. It's no surprise that these teams are now kind of struggling a little bit now when you're getting towards before you're playing a World Cup and you're having to play in a lot of games this season. But yeah, look, I think it's about having patience. It's about things take time in football. It's the same thing with Pep Guardiola when he took over at City. If you look back at Pep's first year at Man City,
and Klopp's at Liverpool,
and Klopp's at Liverpool, and a lot of these ones that end up creating a long period of success. It takes time. It takes time to develop that. And I think when you look at the people that were bought in the summer, it's this idea of youngsters who can really produce over the next few years. So look, it might be a bit tough right now, but as you mentioned, it's only been a couple of games, and come the end of the World Cup, I think we'll be all right.
Patience is the key word. Right, it's time to hear from the Chelsea head coach, Graham Potter, who was speaking after the Arsenal defeat.
Graham, first of all, difficult afternoon. How did you assess the performance today?
I thought we huffed and puffed, to be honest. We're playing against a team in a good moment, good confidence. They've been working together for a while, and we not probably at that stage in terms of where our fluidity is, where our confidence is, and that's probably reflected in the performance. Like I said, the effort was there from the players. We pushed, but in the end, probably we have to say, as much as it's not nice to say, Arsenal deserved to win over the course of the game.
It's a very important point, that, because I guess remembering the context of where we are in comparison to other teams around us at the moment.
Well, we've just suffered with a few key ones in terms of injuries, which doesn't help us. And like I said, a few results and then all of a sudden confidence can go a little bit. But that's just part of the challenge. That's part of the pain that you have to go through to get yourself to where you want to be. If you look at Arsenal's story, it's not been a straight line. It's been one of ups and downs as well. And I think if you go around football, that's the story. But while it happens to you, it's not pleasant. We can still do better. We can still play better. And it's about supporting the players, helping them get through this period, and sticking together and coming through stronger.
And it was a proper sort of scrappy London derby today, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was. And like I said, if we would like to, we'd like to play with a bit more quality, a bit more guile. But at the same time, we have to understand the difference where the two teams were. Thought we had little moments, but we couldn't capitalise on it enough, and they were always dangerous, in fairness. So no complaints about the results. More to do in terms of the work that we have.
Just on that, Graham, are games like this, performances like this, important for you to learn as a coach at this stage?
Well, every game is important. Every game, like I said, the pain sometimes you have to go through. It's not nice. It isn't. I don't like it at all. But to get to where you want to get to, you have to see who's with you, who's able to take responsibility, who's got the necessary qualities and attributes to help the team get to where we want to get to, which is competing at the top of the league. We're not there at the moment, but that's the process, that's the challenge, that's the work.
Go to Man City next in a different competition in the Carabao Cup. Do you anticipate making changes ahead of that one?
Yeah, we will do, because there's some guys that are pushing to play. So that'll be good. And at the same time, we have to go there to be competitive and try to win the match.
That was Graham Potter then speaking after the Arsenal defeat. Going back to that, Zach,
yes.
We can see he actually spoke about it in that interview there, that you can tell that these two teams are very... Arsenal a little bit further on in their sort of journey with Mikel Arteta, and Chelsea are very much at the start of theirs with Graham Potter. But it was very visible to see on the pitch, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think fair play, credit to what Arsenal have done. The board as well backed Arteta.
They're 3.5 years in, though. We have to remember that. We're 12 games into Graham Potter's tenure at Chelsea. They're 3.5 years in.
Yeah, exactly. And there have been some bad times as well for them. Some really bad times. Even just back in like April or so, there were calls for him to have maybe been moved on. But they stuck by him, and now they've got the fruits of their labour, and it's done very, very well. And I think when you actually compare where Arsenal were when they brought Arteta into where Chelsea are now, I think Chelsea are miles ahead with just the squad talent, with the players available, with the youth team that they've got. Like they are miles ahead, and I think it won't take anywhere near as long personally to do this. And then even then, when we were maybe at Arsenal's level, you've still got to face City, which is just not never ending.
I know. So tonight is one of two games then before that World Cup break. And guys, Dan, do you think it comes at a good time? I think most Chelsea fans we can see here think that it probably does. It would be the best break for all the Chelsea players to reassess, gain confidence and gain that losing streak back. Would you agree with that? Do you think it comes at a good time?
I think so. I think the players are a little bit tired. There's been a lot of changes that's happened in the last few weeks, and even before that, we've had to go through quite a lot as a club recently. A World Cup might just be a change of scenery, something else to focus on, and they can come back injury-free and rejuvenated, and hopefully in good spirits to continue the season. It's not all doom and gloom. Yes, we've had a couple of bad results, but it's very, very easy and quick to turn things around.
Season's nowhere near over.
Yeah, that's it.
It feels like, Elizabeth, does it feel like that maybe Chelsea's season maybe starts properly after the World Cup?
I was literally just about to say that, because Graham Potter's going to have some time with the players who don't go to the World Cup. And I think the thing that we have to remember as well is that it's kind of this weird stopping point in the season. So all of the teams are going to have to start essentially from scratch again, because they're going to have players that are going to the World Cup, players that aren't. And I feel like it's going to be a fresh start and basically like a second start to the season. So I think it's something that Chelsea can definitely take advantage of.
Absolutely. Well, going back to Monday, because Chelsea found out who they were playing in the round of 16 draw in the Champions League, we head to Dortmund first, and then Dortmund come to Stamford Bridge for the second leg. Now, guys, out of all the teams we could have got, a lot of people, not an easy draw, but we should be able to beat them. And I think we were all just glad, I was, that it's not PSG. We've avoided PSG. And it's the first time that Dortmund and Chelsea are facing each other in Europe. What did you think of the draw, Dan, first of all?
I think eventually have to play a good team anyway. Now, Dortmund are not a bad team. They are a good team.
Nowhere near bad.
But they are one of the teams we would have picked if we could have picked them. Great, as we've never played them in Europe. So I think it's a tie that we can win. Hopefully, we'll be in new and improved form. They haven't been very, very good this season either.
They've been up
so
and down, yeah.
I think it will be good to springshot us into some good form.
And there'll be two familiar faces returning to Dortmund as well, because Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, of course, and that man Christian Pulisic, both, Zach, who enjoyed very successful careers at Dortmund. So they are going back, I don't want to say home, but going back to their former clubs.
Yeah, no, for sure. Look, I think for them, it's kind of what put them on the map, Borussia Dortmund. Borussia Dortmund's been a club for many players to have made their name. We're facing one today, possibly, in Erling Haaland, who made an impression. Yeah, hopefully not, actually. An impression there at Dortmund. There's another one in Jude Bellingham, who looks like the next top midfielder in the world, who's really, really exciting. And it'd be great to see him in front of our own eyes as well. And it's nice to play a team that, we haven't played before. I think it's really, really interesting. It's not the PSGs where you could have ended up playing Lionel Messi, Neymar, and Co and Mbappe. But it's also, to be honest, Borussia Dortmund are kind of having a similar season to Chelsea. They're facing a lot of injuries. A lot of their key players are out at the moment, and they'll be a bit stronger as well come the new year. And it'll be interesting to put our team against theirs, that's for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. And we could be in a very, very different position when you think of the players that Chelsea currently have injured and the ones that we might potentially have back for that first tie in February. You know, first time ever playing Dortmund, we will have Reece, Ben Chilwell, potentially even N'Golo Kanté, Fofana back. Maybe we can do this and beat Dortmund. I think that is the key, isn't it? Having all those players back. This is interesting. Will be interesting to see how many players who are in Chelsea's starting 11 versus Arsenal
100%
are in the starting 11. Yep. Do you think there's going to be many, Zach?
I think it could be a very different squad. That's what I was kind of hinting towards earlier, that there were... Wesley Fofana wasn't in that team. Reece James wasn't in that team. Kovacic wasn't in that team. Ben Chilwell wasn't in that team. That's four. Kanté. That's 5 players of 10 men that are outfield. That could be half the team that's different. Yeah. And again, that's not to discredit the guys that were playing, but these are guys who, one has been bought for £80+ million. Yep. One of them's the best in the world in their position. The other is N'Golo Kanté, who's there's not enough superlatives to even talk about him. It could be a very different time. This Chelsea side come February could be in a very, very different place, and that's not even to mention the January transfer window. I was just going to say, Elizabeth, with that January transfer window and, you know, that activity that could potentially happen, it could be an entirely different starting 11 and a much maybe stronger one with all of Chelsea's best players starting.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how Chelsea approach the January transfer window and what positions they look to reinforce. I'm thinking maybe a defensive midfielder, potentially, maybe somebody to fill in a right back, right wing back, maybe promoting some youth as well to the first team. It's going to be interesting to see. But with the January transfer window, we could have some real reinforcements into the squad and see us getting back to the best and competing. And against Dortmund, like you mentioned, could be completely different side to the one that faced Arsenal. So I'm really excited for it. I can't wait to see what happens.
I'm so excited for it, but I'm also excited because there is so many good draws. Let's remind ourselves then of the Champions League round of 16 draw in full, because there are some huge ties in there, aren't there? There's some real knockout ones when you think of Liverpool-Real Madrid, a repeat of last year's final. Dan, if you were looking at that, give me one draw that stands out to you.
It would be Bayern and PSG. I think they have been the two kind of dominant teams in recent years. So I'm glad that one of them has to go out in the round of 16.
The final a few years ago as well. Yeah.
And that's good. Zach, if you could pick one, is it?
Liverpool-Real Madrid is good fun. PSG Bayern is also great fun. Milan-Spurs. Because I've been speaking to a few Spurs mates, they think they're going to roll over Milan. I don't think that's going to happen.
I think when Chelsea, Elizabeth, when Chelsea played AC Milan, Chelsea were very good in that first leg, but had Fikayo Tomori not have been sent off in the second leg, we saw, you know, Rafael Leao almost like, you know, get past Reece James a few times. Reece James then sort of came into the game and he didn't get past him again. But that AC Milan attack could cause Spurs some real problems, couldn't they?
Absolutely. They were super strong. We know that, like you mentioned, Leao is having a fantastic season. Olivier Giroud, ex-Chelsea player, is also having an incredible season for them, and he's coming in with some really clutch goals. And I think in Serie A, they're doing well, and it's not going to be as easy of a fixture as Spurs are making it out to be. In those games, we absolutely dominated. We had the game plan 100% on point, and we needed to 100% win that game. But like you mentioned, if Tomori wasn't sent off, maybe could have changed the game a bit, but I do see this as a pretty even matchup between AC Milan and Spurs. That's one of the ones that I am unsure which way it's going to go.
I think a lot of people would think that AC Milan Spurs is going to be very, very tight. Guys, are we ready? It is trivia time.
Let's give it our best shot.
Yeah,
give it our best shot, that's for sure.
Best shot. Right. Should we have a look at what today's trivia question is? Who was the last team to beat us over 90 minutes in the Carabao Cup? Wow. So Chelsea, of course, got to the final last year, so it would have been the season before that. Oh. Or was it? Oh, God.
Well, it went to penalties in the last one, so that's not 90 minutes.
So
but we'll think about it.
It has to be the season.
We'll think about it. We'll think about it. I think we'll... I reckon we'll get that one. I do think we'll get that one by half-time.
Did we go out the last season... Before that, did we go out in 90 minutes or did we go out on penalties?
Again,
to who?
We'll have a think. Otherwise, I think, right now, I can't think off the top of my head, but I think we'll
get it.
Well, we've got until half-time, haven't we?
We'll work it out.
Haven't we, to come up with an answer. Whilst we do that, let's have a look at the WSL highlights when Chelsea played Manchester United on the weekend.
This is going to be a good battle, this, Russo against Bright. And Russo has got there ahead of her England colleague. Waiting for reinforcement in the middle. That's Toon. Deflection! And Paris on the follow-up has taken a knock. Trying to poke it in. It scraped off the studs of Eriksson and it just hit Berger. First chance of the game. Charles on the charge, and that's nearly in. Can't have meant it. It's a slice cross. First save of the match for Mary Earps. It's a good bad one, that nearly, from Niamh Charles. It was heading in. Cuthbert to deliver by the looks of it. Clips it in, it's over Bright. This is Sam Kerr. Pernille Harder! And a game of few chances. I suppose that's half a one. Did have to put all the pace on the ball herself, though. Earps probably had it covered. Also, crowd favourite here. Away from Cuthbert. And taking on Magda Eriksson. Oh, and that's Millie Bright, and it could have gone anywhere. So nearly an own goal. Berger would have been absolutely stumped if that had been on target. And Turner into Zellem and back again. And, Turner's given that straight to Ingle, who's given it straight to Sam Kerr. And she's put it straight in the back of the Man United net. You cannot give a finisher like Sam Kerr a chance for free. The game that really needed a goal has got one on the hour. And it's the first United have conceded this season. It is a gift. A mistake punished. The champions in front. Great pass, Ingle. Terrible mistake, Turner. Kerr with the finish. 1-0. Millie Bright looking long. And United's higher line has been caught out here, has it? Yes, the flag stays down. Sam Kerr, Lauren James, brilliant goal. Bang, bang. Just like that, Chelsea are 2-0 in front. Remarkable. Lauren James, the X Factor, back at Man United and scoring the champions' second goal in 4 minutes. And Manchester United's perfect record is surely ending this evening now. What a ball from Millie Bright. Great hold-up play from Kerr. And then that as the finish. Wow. Suddenly they are all over the place, United. Haven't been behind this season. It could be 3. Wrighton, oh, it nearly was 3. Cuthbert's following up, by the way. Still, they haven't got it clear. Pernille Harder beaten out by Earps. James, Kerr, and Earps again. And about 5 times over, Chelsea nearly make it 3-0. So many bodies in the box. James into Erin Cuthbert. She's giving it away. What a ball from Toon. This is Russo. Game on. Well, out of nowhere, this match has come alive. Errors have helped for sure, and this latest one from Cuthbert. It's a great pass from Toon and the finish from Russo as well. Suddenly 3 goals in 11 minutes, and it's 2-1. Eriksson's cross, it's a good one in towards Pernille Harder. And then James. This is Ingle. Oh, what a ball! And how Sam Kerr missed that. Maybe the question she's asking herself, that had to be 3-1. Couple of minutes into stoppage time now as Cuthbert shoots and finishes it off. Huge deflection, game over. It's a statement victory, this, for the Blues. Manchester United's perfect record is gone. Their clean sheet record is gone. And thanks to a deflection of Maya Letitia, it's 3-1. And Chelsea are joining Arsenal at the top of the WSL table.
Well, wherever we go, Trivago are with us, and now they bring us to Etihad Stadium to follow the warm-up of the Blues for the match against Manchester City. It's the 63rd edition of the League Cup, England's swiftest route to silverware. Of course, it has that bonus European place as well. Last season began with a penalty shootout win and then ended with a penalty shootout defeat. And in terms of the third round draw, Jason Cundy, this is about as tough as they get, isn't it?
Yes, good evening, Max. Good evening, everyone. Yes, of course, this is one of the best, most expensive sides in world football, and they've got a manager that knows exactly how to win this competition. Having said that, this is Chelsea. We're Chelsea. We got to go there with belief. Right now, things haven't been particularly great. There's all sorts of talk about the defeat against Arsenal. We weren't great, and the best side won. But this presents another opportunity. And a big opportunity, actually, bearing in mind that you think about the Carabao Cup. Historically, big teams can get knocked out early in this, and this is one of these. A lot of teams will look at this game thinking, who's going to get knocked out? Let's make sure and hope it's not us.
Well, especially with where it's happening within the season, with going into the final Premier League game ahead of the World Cup break. It's an opportunity to rotate. Manchester City have certainly done that. Looking at this Chelsea lineup, Jason, what grabs your attention?
Well, to be honest with you, that you expect to shuffle the pack. It's always hard. I was listening to Potter's pre-match press conference about some of the young players that he expects to be in the squad. Lewis Hall is one of those. He starts tonight, but actually, when you look at it, it's actually littered with internationals. You got Mendy up top, Chalobah, Koulibaly, Cucurella, Loftus-Cheek, Kovacic, Zakaria, of course, who scored his first goal in the Champions League a couple of weeks ago, last week. Ziyech, Pulisic, Hall. So this is a strong team, but in terms of the best Chelsea side, it's actually not the best. So you'd expect to see a stronger time in the Premier League. Then you look at Manchester City's team. Well, it's again the sort of side you'd expect in terms of being weak, but it's not weak.
Both benches, of course, packed with talent. But let's just take a look at the man that's going to be leading the Chelsea line tonight, Armando Broja. Yep. You've been impressed with what you've seen so far, Jason, although, as you said, he's still very raw.
Yes, and I love Broja. And what he brings a little bit of uncertainty, and what he's raw. But what he's got is bags and bags of energy. Will chase lost causes. Will close players down. There was a couple of times against Ben Mee against Brentford when he came with me. He closed down spaces that weren't even there, and he gives you a different dimension. So I'm looking for a little bit more quality. I'm looking for Broja to grow into the physique that he's got, because there's a lot going on. We saw that at Southampton last season. What an opportunity this is for the young man.
Speaking of opportunities, you do have to grab them with both hands when they are presented to you, certainly at this level of football. Lewis Hall, on Monday, completed 90 minutes in the Premier League 2. Just 2 days later, he's back starting for the senior side.
What a story for the young man. We've seen him before. Good luck to him. What a massive stage. But this is why when you're growing up, going through the youth ranks, whatever club it might be, this is why this is what you want to. This is what you want to be a footballer. This is exactly it right now, to play on the biggest stage against some of the biggest clubs in the world, and right now he's got that opportunity. Good luck to him.
So looking at the Manchester City side, a number of youngsters in there. We're looking especially in the fullback roles. Rico Lewis, who did have a very impressive performance in the Champions League, scoring on his first start for the senior team. Sergio Gomez down the left-hand side as well. He has been subject to a couple of rickets this season in his early Manchester City career. Plenty of experience going forward, as we know. But looking at the Chelsea wingers in particular, Pulisic and Hakim Ziyech, there's an opportunity there, isn't there, to get wide and get right at Lewis and Gomez.
So we're talking about huge players here. These guys are, Pulisic at the World Cup. Ziyech come for huge money at Ajax, tore up all sorts of trees in the Champions League and back when he was at Ajax. These are the games that they should shine. This should be bread and butter. These guys should be disappointed. They're chosen for this game. This almost is one of those games you think, where's the shadow squad? Who is it going to be? The fact they're starting today, come on then, show me what you got under the bonnet. What can you do? Can you get in that team at the weekend against Newcastle?
Mateo Kovacic, the senior figure in midfield, joined by Denis Zakaria, as we already mentioned. His last start also came in midweek when he scored as well. So, hopefully that is a sign of things to come. Yep. But just looking at Kovacic, he is the experienced figure there. He'll become the 29th overseas player to reach 200 appearances for the club. I mean, what a figure he's been. What a servant.
He's been magnificent, and there's a lot to love about Kova. I want to see more goals and more creativity, though. That's what that position should hold. But you could argue and say that he's been our best player this season, or one of in the conversation. So yes, he's one of those. Tonight, he's one of the senior figures. Look at that midfield right there. He's one of the senior figures, one of the ones that you look at that and say, can you go on and grab this game? Can you control this game? Can you have a big influence on the way this game goes? And that's why he's involved today.
Interestingly, Jason, we were talking off air, weren't we, about the strength of the benches. There's a number of first-team regulars among the Chelsea substitutes, but we're looking at what Pep Guardiola can call upon, the likes of Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Manuel Akanji, Phil Foden, just to name a few. But as you told me, it doesn't always work like that, does it?
No, it doesn't. And when you shuffle your pack, this works for both sides, and we saw Everton last night against Bournemouth, Brentford against Gillingham. You can shuffle your pack, even though you've got the better squad and the better players. It's hard to sometimes just turn from going to a Premier League team into a midweek Carabao Cup game. That's the problem. Can you get that gel? Can you get those players to perform at the same intensity and same ability? That's hard, that's tough, but that's the challenge for the players, Max.
Well, the last meeting between these two sides in this competition was, of course, at Wembley, the 2018-19 Carabao Cup final, where Chelsea came out on the wrong side of a penalty shootout defeat. It was Raheem Sterling who secured it on that occasion. This game will go straight to penalties if it ends in a draw, so let's hope it will be different this time around. But for now, we'll go back to Olivia in the studio.
Thank you very much, Max. We'll be back to Max and Jason in a few minutes for commentary. A big game today, Zach.
Yeah, huge.
What are you expecting from both these sides, given they're both weakened sides, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, whatever side that Pep Guardiola puts out is still going to play the same kind of football. He's going to want to dominate possession. He's going to want to pass it about. He's going to want to frustrate the team that he's playing because that's when they'll find a gap and Chelsea might make a mistake. And so it's just about being switched on. That being said, at the same time, Chelsea also going to want the ball. I think it's going to be two sides that are obviously going to be battling for domination of the ball. Yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. I mean, it's definitely it's hard saying it's a weaker side for Pep because it really isn't.
When you're playing
Grealish, £100 million Jack Grealish playing on the left wing. Yeah, it's still Laporte. Like, there's just so many names. It's going to be interesting to see their youngsters play as well. Rico Lewis, who scored in the Championship, Palmer as well. So, yeah, look, I think it's going to be a big game. I think we'll all kind of keep our eyes out, I think, for the youngsters like Lewis Hall and our team. Yeah.
Do you think, Zach mentioned it there, Dan, do you think about Chelsea are going to be playing on the counter? Because as much as we might want possession of the ball, it is so difficult to have possession against any Pep Guardiola side.
You know what? I always feel like when we play Man City, we don't give them the ball and try and hit them on the break. We do try and play them at football. I wouldn't.
That maybe our downfall?
Maybe it could be, but I think we're brave enough to try and play them at their game, and I think we're good enough. I think with Kovacic in the middle, with Zakaria, we've got the team out there that it would not be a shock. It wouldn't be a giant killing if Chelsea beat Man City in this tie. So I feel like I'm quietly confident. I feel like
you're always
as we're getting closer to the game, and I'm really taking in the team sheets. I think we've got a real chance here and that this will not be us trying to nick a game.
And you mentioned someone there, Dan. You mentioned Mateo Kovacic, who captains the side on his 200th Chelsea appearance. 200 appearances has flown by the way. But he is one of Chelsea's most important players. And he's captain. It's nice to see him lead out the side tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm super happy to see him starting, first of all. I think that for me, he's one of the first names on the team sheet, and it's been really great to see how well he's done with Chelsea coming from Real Madrid and kind of being a serial winner there. And I think that he just brings something so different to the team. He's a very unique player. We don't have anybody like him, and you can notice when he's in the team and when he's not. So for him to be captain, I think it speaks a lot about how well he's been performing, and he's been a leader on and off the pitch. So I'm very, very happy for him.
We're just praying for a fully fit Mateo Kovacic after the World Cup, aren't we? That's what we want. Zach, what do you want to see from this Chelsea side that we haven't seen in the last two Premier League games?
A bit of fight. A bit of fight would be really good. I think we kind of. It felt like we got dominated against Arsenal, and I don't think I think we can kind of make a statement here today against City. If Chelsea went and got a result against Manchester City, it would say a lot to the league. I'm really interested to see Lewis Hall, and I'm really also hoping Amari Hutchinson gets some minutes as well. He's such a talented player, and like amazing with the ball at his feet. He's a guy who used to play futsal and has stepped into the professional game. So yeah, I'm hoping for. An inspired Chelsea performance just before the World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an important night, Dan, for two players in Hakim Ziyech and Christian Pulisic, who are actually playing. We've seen them both play wing-back, not their preferred positions, but tonight is a real opportunity against two young Manchester City fullbacks. It's huge for them, isn't it?
This is it. Pulisic and Ziyech both playing in their preferred positions. We've seen bits of Pulisic this season. I feel like he's been impressive when he's come off the bench and he's really tried to make things happen when perhaps we've needed a bit of a spark. Ziyech we've not seen much of, but we know all the talent is there. We know what's underneath the bonnet with him. It's just about being able to make it happen week in, week out. Hopefully against an inexperienced or lesser experienced Man City side, they can really get on top of them.
You want to see Christian Pulisic get the ball and run at players. That is what he is so good at, and that is what is so difficult to defend against. We saw it with Leao, just the perfect example, when he played against AC Milan, how direct he is and how hard it is. That's what we want to see from Christian Pulisic today, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and he's up against Rico Lewis, and this is a guy who I know played in the Champions League, he scored in the Champions League, and he's an excited player. Young. Yeah, he's very, very experienced, he's very, very young, and something that you want Pulisic to make it a hard day for him. You want him to come off and go, OK, this is the professional level, this is what I'm up against week in, week out, and Pulisic has the ability to do that. And then when you've got Brozier as well occupying the defence, I mean, he's someone that I'm also quite excited to see as well. Yeah, it's nice to see a few academy kids get their break.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, just a word on Hakim Ziyech, because it's a huge night for him. He's going away with Morocco as well. So he's got a real chance to get into some form before the World Cup.
Definitely. He's somebody that we haven't seen so much of this season. He is capable of having some minutes, pulling out some crazy moments from him. And he's the type of player that even if he's having a bit of a quiet game, you just never know what to expect, especially with that wicked left foot. So I think that he's going to take this opportunity and know that this is one of the big chances for him to be able to get some match fitness ahead of the World Cup and make an impression.
Absolutely right. Kickoff is fast approaching at the Etihad, so let's head over to our commentary team for the night. It's Max Jones and Jason Cundy.
Yeah, thanks Olivia, Dan, Zach and Elizabeth, and welcome to the Etihad as Chelsea kick off their Carabao Cup campaign against the 8-time winners of this competition, Manchester City. Pep Guardiola's citizens have run the rule over this competition since he touched down in the northwest of England, winning an